I'm Preston Dennett, and you're watching The Red Booth Show.
Hi, welcome to The Red Booth Show. I'm your host, Kimberly Q. On tonight's episode, I have a writer named Preston Dennett, and he's here to talk to us about all of his books and some really cool things that are coming up. So, come and join us. So, hey Preston, how's it going?
Going great, yeah. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm happy to have you here on the show.
Hey, me too. Red Booth with Kimberly Q. I mean, what's not to like? Look at this place.
Well, I'm really excited that you're here because you're one of the winners of the new Writers of the Future, the 35th year anniversary celebration, which is really exciting.
Oh, so excited. I mean, I can't tell you how excited I am. I have been entering this contest almost since it began, really.
I heard that. That's what I thought was really interesting and curious about you, especially because you have been entering it for so long.
Yeah, you know, I think I may have broken some records in terms of how many times. I've entered 47 times.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I started entering way back in 1986 and entered all the way to 1992, 12 times, rejected every time. I gave up. I was so crushed. I knew I could win this contest, and I didn't win. I was so upset. I had by that time bought 100 science fiction books. I sold them all. The only thing I didn't sell was these Writers of the Future books. I could not part with them. I literally cried as I boxed them up because this was my dream. I wanted to be a science fiction writer, and I'd failed. And I just couldn't. It was too hard. I had no idea it was going to be that hard.
Well, I mean, they do get thousands and thousands of submissions, so it's you know, the chances of getting into this is actually quite slim. So you're very lucky that you won. It's really cool and exciting.
Yeah, well, that's kind of cool about it. It's anonymous, you know, so you can send all these terrible stories in, and they're not going to know it was you.
That's awesome.
And so, yeah, I mean.
Yeah, they don't put your name on it or your age, or if you're a man or a woman, they put nothing. They just send the story, and that's it, and the judges just base it on the story.
Right, and there's really nothing like that out there, certainly not this big.
Right.
And boy, you know, it took 17 years later.
Amazing.
My boss walks in, he's like, "Do you like science fiction?" And I get a little teary-eyed. I'm like, "Well, yeah, I used to." He's like, "You've got to read this book by E.E. Doc Smith, the Lensman series." I'm like, "Fine, I'll read it. You're my boss. I'll read it." And I fell back in love, and I bought all my books back. I bought the Writers of the Future, all the volumes I had missed. I wanted to win this contest. You know, I was not going to give up. I was back in, and I started entering every single quarter. And that was, gosh, let's see, 2009.
Wow.
I entered every quarter, and I entered a total of 47 times. Won a bunch of honorable mentions, by the way.
That's good.
Which is awesome that this contest gives out honorable mentions. Lets you kind of know, and semifinalists, of
Right.
course. Couldn't get past that honorable mention barrier, though. I just couldn't do it. But I wasn't going to give up. There's no way.
That's amazing. Well, what's really cool is that the judges of these of the contest are actually very renowned, major authors, and I'm trying to think of some of the judges that we can mention. Do you know some?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's Tim Powers, Mike Resnick. One of my favorite judges is Dean Wesley Smith, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because the Writers of the Future has a forum, you know, where all the entrants go, and you can talk about the contest, and that's where I learned a whole bunch, really. I learned more on that forum than I did really anywhere else about how to write and be inspired.
Really?
Absolutely.
That's a good resource then.
Oh,
People should go check that out.
Definitely. And I was browsing the forum one day, and there was this little thread there about don't give up. I'm like, this is interesting. You know, this is really right up my alley. And one guy said, "Oh, don't worry, I'll never give up. I heard the story of Topanga Canyon." When I heard those words, I got a chill because I grew up in Topanga Canyon. That's where I lived when I was entering back in the 80s and 90s. I knew that was me. Turned out Topanga Canyon is a cautionary tale taught by Dean Wesley Smith, one of the judges, and who's published in the first volume, by the way.
Oh, wow.
And he talks about this guy named Topanga Canyon who was entering all the magazines and was right at the end of the road. The editors were talking about him, book editors. Everyone was wondering who was going to publish his first story. That was me. I actually contacted Dean Wesley Smith. I'm like, "Is that really me? I know it's me. Is it?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, that's you." And I was devastated but so excited at the same time. It was like discovering I had a secret identity. kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, I just couldn't believe it. And that gave me the push I needed to really keep on entering. And I wasn't going to give up, not after what I've been through, but that really gave me the inspiration I needed to just keep on going.
Wow.
And gosh, when I got that finalist call, I screamed. I was at work. My boss comes running in. He's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Nothing's wrong, but I'm going to need a week off next year when I get my award."
That's so
Because
cool.
that's what's so awesome about this contest is it's not just a monetary prize. You get a workshop.
That's right.
You get blown to Hollywood. It's just amazing. You get this week-long workshop. You get to meet all the famous writers, and they teach you.
Yeah.
And
some of the biggest names in science fiction, I know for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And some of the people who won this contest are now the biggest names in science fiction.
That's right, because it's been around for so long. It started in the 80s, I think, after Battlefield Earth was first published.
Right.
And then the next year, they started the Writers of the Future, to help new writers to get published. And that's what they've been doing ever since then.
Yeah, what a legacy Hubbard has left behind with these. For me, it was really important as a young writer. And I absolutely love the stories in this anthology. I think it's the best out there. And I believe it's been a bestseller on the New York Times for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yes, it has been winning. And what's really cool is, from what I heard, is that they were the first ones to win science fiction for New York Times bestseller.
Right.
So
I'm so excited. Now I've got my story in there. I'm
I
like,
know.
oh my
Congratulations
God.
after all that. Gosh, I can't
Right.
even imagine spending that much effort and persisting for so long and really finally coming through. It's really cool.
Getting that finalist call was good enough, really. I would have been happy with that.
Well,
But
I
I
guess-
did not sleep for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, literally until I got that call that I'd actually placed second place.
Very cool. Well, I guess we'll have to find out what your story is about, because I know it's like the last story in the book. There's like 15 stories that are in the book, and we're going to have to go to a quick break, but this is the Writers of the Future book contest. This is the 35th year that they've been publishing the book, and it has 15 stories in it, and Preston is one of the stories that's in the book. So, okay, we're going to go to a quick break, and we'll see you guys soon. And welcome back to the Red Booth Show. I'm here with Preston Dennett, and we are talking about his new book that has just come out, as well as the Writers of the Future contest. And he has just recently won the contest as one of the writers. There's 15 stories inside of these books that come out every year from all over the world. People enter. Anyone that's unpublished or has not had a certain amount of science fiction, right? It has to be
Or fantasy.
or fantasy types of books released. If they want to get published, they can always put their story in for a submission and see if they'll get the prize. So it's very exciting. You can also watch the awards ceremony, because this is the new book. It has not been released yet, so we don't actually know who all the winners are, except for you. We know you're one of the winners, but there's other winners that are going to be given their actual awards, the Golden Pen Award, and I think another one for the illustrators that are in the book as well, which is amazing artwork. You got to check out the artist, and that's going to be on April 5th at 7:30. And you can watch it on writersofthefuture.com, and also that's where the Writers Forum is as well, writersofthefuture.com.
Right.
So-
Yeah. I've been to this gala event before.
Yeah.
In the audience.
Yeah, me too.
At least 5 or 10 times, at least. Knew one day I was going to make it up there on that stage and get my own award. And
Man.
now it's happening on April 5th.
So exciting.
And, man, I'm telling all my friends to watch it online who can't make it.
Yeah.
Because this is a big event for me. I mean, this is something that's been a lifelong dream, really.
Yeah.
And
I
I
know.
said, 47 times.
47 entries, and now you finally won, and it's been you've been entering since the 80s. So
I had hair back then. That's how long I've been entering. Seriously.
well, congratulations, you did it.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean-
funny. It's a really short story
Yeah.
that I won with. It's like, gosh, 11 pages maybe.
Right.
Which is so amazing about this contest, because you can enter really short stories and win. You
Yeah,
can-
what's the smallest size of a story that you can put in the...
Oh, anything. I don't think you're going to win with one word.
Right.
But there's a person who has, gotten into I think he was a finalist with 1 page, and it was published. Another person won first place with a 3 or 4 page story.
Really?
Oh, it was so good. I still remember it. The Disambiguation of Captain Shroud
Wow.
by Gary Shockley. I know, I
You've
read
been
all
reading
of
them
those.
all, yeah.
I study them.
That's
Because
amazing.
to me, they're the best stories out there. They're all unique. I know they're by new writers I haven't heard before.
Yeah.
And whenever I have a new story written, it's the first place it goes is here. because this is a big deal to win. It's like, gosh, a Hugo or a Nebula in some ways, for certainly the aspiring writer it is.
Oh, definitely.
And so many people, like I've said, have gone on to make hugely successful careers.
Definitely. I mean, they've had judges like Orson Scott Card and, oh my God, the writer of Dune, okay? What's his
Frank
name?
Herbert.
Frank
Yeah.
Herbert, okay. It's one of my favorites, and I can't believe I didn't remember that. Okay, sorry, Frank. I love you, Frank Herbert. Okay, anyways. So
Yeah,
there
they've
you
got
go.
all the luminaries of science fiction have been judges
Yeah.
at one time or another.
Yeah.
And they're always bringing on new judges. And David Farland is, of course, the editing judge.
Right.
Read his stuff, of course.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, these books changed my life. They really have.
It's awesome. What I really love about it is that people, when they read science fiction, you can sort of see what could be and what technology could become and what the possibilities are of the future. I mean, obviously some of them are dark and twisted, so we don't really want those things to happen, but other times they're like inspiring, you know? So I think that science fiction really is part of the imagination of mankind.
Yeah,
and
it's a huge part
really
of our
cool.
culture right now. Wasn't always, you know, thanks to L. Ron Hubbard, he really brought it up to the forefront.
Well,
it wasn't
definite-
like that before.
Well, definitely back in the 50s, I know he released tons of pulp fictions that had lots of science fiction under many different names, and those were very popular. So it's very interesting if you actually find out the history of his writing career. But this is a great legacy that he's got to help new writers. Anybody can enter, any age, any nationality, whatever. It's totally just based on
Yeah, they have people
the
from all
judges.
across the world that win every year,
Yeah.
illustrator or writers.
That's right.
And so neat to see stories, you know, coming from Russia or China or Africa or what have you.
And the artwork is the same way. It's amazing. It's just stunning.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
I can't wait to see the picture for my story.
I know, it's so
That is thing called the
excited.
big reveal.
I know.
And
We're not allowed to open this. They had to tape it, so we're not allowed to see. But I'm going to be there, and I'll be looking forward to seeing your story. And
I've been dreaming about it literally.
Yeah.
I'm like, I had another Riders of the Future dream.
I know.
Drive me crazy. So glad this event is coming up because I don't know if I can wait much longer.
it's finally coming true. So congratulations. I'm very excited for you.
Yeah, my story is hard science fiction, I guess. Maybe I would describe it as a post-nuclear apocalyptic romance with time bubbles. Is how I would describe it.
Wow, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, I hope so.
I like the fact that there's also a love story in there, so that's kind of cool, you know?
Yeah, I tend to. That's one theme I do love exploring is the power of love.
Cool.
And that came through, I think, in this story. It's really a love story, paramount.
That's awesome.
But yeah, the story is.
Very different from your other stories, or I should say books, because you are a career writer regarding not a fiction area, but a non-fiction subject. Well, I guess it depends who you talk to. But he's definitely made a career out of researching and publishing books about actually things like this. So this is one of your other books that you have recently come out with. And so Preston has talked with tons and tons of people in the military, from all over the world, regarding actual experiences that they claim to be true. And he's written a ton of books about it. And actually, I think you've got 22 different books that you have published regarding the subject already.
Right. I originally wanted to be a science fiction writer. That's kind of my dream, and I couldn't do it. So I kind of moved into writing about UFOs, which is still about aliens. So it's kind of similar. But ultimately, I'm so glad to be back into doing both.
Yeah.
And interviewing witnesses who have seen UFOs and whistleblowers from the government and the military, and the stuff that's going on. I think would blow people's minds if they really knew.
Well, I definitely think it would blow their mind, and that's quite a crazy subject. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with Preston Dennett. And welcome back to the Red Booth Show. I'm here with writer Preston Dennett. Okay, so we were just talking about all of these books that you've published, which you have available online to purchase, that are up to 22 books right now so far in the genre of UFO and alien encounters, I would say,
and
right?
the paranormal as well, ghosts and Bigfoot.
Okay,
and
yeah,
all
I saw
kinds of
one. I saw one Bigfoot one, but like most of them are about encounters with extraterrestrials, I would say.
Right, it's like science fiction come true. I mean, it's not science fiction. This is nonfiction. This stuff really happens, but it's definitely related to science fiction. Some people think it is science fiction, like you said.
Right.
But to me, no.
Well, that's the whole thing, is that there, people, there's, a large percentage of the population that doesn't think it's true, and then there's people that totally know that it's true, or,
Yeah, I mean, if you're a skeptic,
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it right now, you haven't done your homework because the evidence is out there. It's not just eyewitness testimonies and stories people are telling. There are 1,000 landing trace cases. There are metal fragments that have been collected. There are, of course, films. There are radar return cases. There's an enormous amount of medical evidence. People are sometimes injured or even healed as a result of being struck by a beam of light from one of these objects. We have witnesses who are very high level within the military and government and science. I've talked to some, like a submarine navigator told me a story. Another guy was an electrician's mate on the USS Clamagore. Another guy was on the USS Long Beach. That's a nuclear-powered Navy ship. So
See, those guys have to see some weird stuff, because they're way out there in the middle of the ocean where there's not really a lot of population, and
exactly.
I mean,
the stuff that's underwater. I've done a lot of
What's
research.
underwater?
We call them USOs, unidentified submersible objects.
Really?
And which are just like UFOs, but you can't really call them UFOs if they're not flying.
Right.
And like the guy who was on the USS Clamagore told me this amazing story about how this object came zooming up underwater at 100 knots. That's pretty fast for underwater. We don't have anything that can do that. And it paced the sub for literally 15 minutes while all the major officers came up on deck. They were on the surface at this time on the East Coast. And watched this thing. No one could identify it. And it wasn't even on sonar. They didn't not know what it was. And it was right there alongside their sub, maybe 30, 50 feet off, which of course at sea is way, way too close. So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff going on in our oceans that even within the UFO community, I don't think people realize how much is going on.
Whoa.
It's crazy. I think there's going to be a lot of people really shocked.
What do you think about the whole underwater civilization theory, that there was some old city that's down there somewhere?
Yeah, remember that show, The Abyss?
Yes.
Science fiction show?
Yeah.
I think that might be truer than most people think, because we haven't explored everything that's down there. The Mariana Trench, I don't think we can even go that deep yet. So I wouldn't surprise me at all if we find like undersea alien base or something like that. And I know our own military is looking into putting undersea bases and this sort of thing. Yeah, people are going to be amazed.
There's also the theory that some of our technology comes from things that have been found, like in Area 51, and
right,
like the
Roswell UFO crash.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I know that you've talked to so many people, like you said, like people that are actually in submarines, out, in the military, and there was also that book called Disclosure, I think, and you said that you've spoken
right.
with the author of that book as well.
Right, Dr. Stephen Greer. This is all part of the disclosure movement. Our government is covering up this subject. It's not, fantasy. This is something we can actually prove through documents released from the Freedom of Information Act. Certainly all our intelligence agencies, the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, they're neck deep in this subject. They take it very seriously. There is a cover-up. I think, and I think the evidence shows this, that we have crashed saucers in our possession and alien bodies. It may sound like science fiction, but this is the stories that are coming out right now. So this is a field that has the potential really to change the world. If we have this technology, can you imagine to, say, heal people like right out of Star Trek, the laser beam, or levitate, anti-gravity, this sort of stuff, I believe is being suppressed due to, the oil cartel and all the greed and power that's kind of paralyzing the world right now. It doesn't have to be that way. When this technology comes out, it's going to change everything.
Wow, that's pretty wild stuff there.
Yeah.
But you just never know. I mean, I'm sure that there's been technologies that have been suppressed. That's for sure. Especially energy technology. That's already documented well. But luckily, we're starting to get some more movement with things. I think it's becoming more competitive, and people are looking for answers more. And
the whole disclosure movement's going to explode. So that's why science fiction, I think, and books like this one are so important.
Right.
Because it really prepares people and lets them know that this kind of stuff is out there.
Well, it does. It gets you thinking, like, well, what are the possibilities that could be out there?
Well, Arthur C. Clarke, his science fiction basically predicted this geosynchronous satellite. I think it was Jules Verne who invented the submarine. So science fiction is kind of the cutting edge of all this stuff and goes where, books like mine can't quite get there yet. But now I'm doing both.
That's cool. So. That's awesome. Okay, we'll take another break, but we'll be right back with Preston Dennett. And welcome back to the Red Booth Show. I'm here with writer Preston Dennett. So we've been talking about some pretty wild stuff that probably is pretty out there for some of you guys, but give it a chance, check it out, read some of his books. You never know. There might be something interesting in there that catches your curiosity. And I was going to ask you, what do you think out of all the books, all of the many books that you've written from people's actual eyewitness testimony to you, is the most wild story that you have heard?
That's a tough question, because I've talked to literally thousands of people.
I know they actually call you. You're you're literally an authority for people, from what I can.
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
I just never thought that this would be my life in a million years. But yeah, one story that comes to mind is a Navy medic told me about his experience where he was actually on the ship. It turned out his cabin mate was a UFO contactee, and his friend.
Meaning he'd been abducted before.
Right.
Okay.
Has had regular contact with aliens, he said, and said the aliens took him into their craft, flew him around, took him to their planet and so on. And the guy I talked to, Kevin is his name, was kind of skeptical.
Yeah.
Says, oh, if that's true, I'd like to meet your little green friends. And his friends set it up. And Kevin actually ended up having a full-on, I don't want to say abduction, because he was essentially invited aboard and had this contact with 15-foot-tall praying mantis type ETs. And I know how that sounds, but this is one of the types that is reported. I'm sure you've heard of grays.
Right. That's the typical one that we hear about, is the gray with like the oval face and like the
exactly
pointy chin and
really
stuff.
short,
right.
tight
Short
uniforms. They're bald.
Okay.
I'm going to say most of the people, not half the people that I've talked to who claim to have had contact with ETs describe some variation of grays. But I hear about these praying mantis quite a bit, and that's what Kevin described. And he described
I'm sorry, but that's way freakier to me, okay? Like, I could handle like a little gray dude, but like a freaking giant 15-foot praying mantis, hell no, I do not appreciate that.
No?
So what can we do? What did he? But they're friendly. They're like, oh, inviting him and like
yeah, it was
come and meet with us.
It was a totally benevolent encounter. He actually had a long conversation with him, and it was all about really the number one message ETs give is warnings of environmental disaster upcoming on our planet. They keep saying we're too warlike. We're polluting our atmosphere. They're very concerned about our use of nuclear power.
Maybe they're talking to Leonardo DiCaprio a lot because, he's doing a whole thing about like global warming.
Yeah, I have talked to some celebrities actually, and who will not let their name be used, but you would absolutely.
Just tell me, no worry, nobody will know.
Just you and me, right?
Yeah, it's just us.
Yeah, you would recognize their names for sure. One was a sitcom star. Another was a actress.
Seinfeld. Was it Seinfeld?
Not saying.
You was, right?
Another was a actress in a huge film franchise. So yeah, famous people are definitely having contact, but of course,
they don't want to talk about it.
No, for the most part.
Because everyone thinks it's crazy.
More and more people are beginning to accept this. Gallup polls, and the Roper poll showed that millions of people believe in this subject. At least half of Americans believe UFOs are real. Something like 60%, even more than believe in UFOs, believe our government is hiding information about it.
Yeah.
Which I find interesting.
Well, Disclosure is a very convincing book, I have to say. I think it's really interesting. Some of the top officials in the military and government have given their testimony in that book. So. But which obviously helps people believe it and give it more credibility. But I still think that obviously you've spoken to all sorts of different people, so your books are going to have a lot of interesting stories. And
yeah, this can happen to just about anybody. I was at work one day. I work full time as a bookkeeper, and this lady I'd worked with for years, Connie, walks into my office while I just happened to be given a little statuette of a gray alien. And she points at it and screams, "What's that?" I'm like, "It's a gray, Connie. What do you think?" She's like, "I saw one of those, right after I had my baby. I saw one of these gray things at the window trying to get in." She told me this incredibly, actually pretty scary story. It scared her for sure. I'm not scared of UFOs. I don't think they're here to take over. I don't think they're hostile. I don't think they're here to save us either. For the most part, they're just tourists, maybe. Scientists. I think they're here in pretty large numbers, and I don't think they're going to go away. I think eventually we're pushing towards open official contact with ETs and being welcomed into the galactic neighborhood, very much like Star Trek. And I know how that sounds to a skeptic. Believe me, I do. I was skeptical. I got dragged into the UFO field, kicking and screaming. Did not believe in this stuff until my brother said he saw a UFO. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, we chased it, me and my 2 friends down Reseda Boulevard. He says, me and my 2 friends, we chased this down Reseda Boulevard, which is right here. I'm like, you gotta be kidding. I ended up talking to his 2 friends. I mean, I know we're a little new agey here, but that's ridiculous, 25%. But gosh, the lady at work, she walked in on me and another lady talking about UFOs. She's like, oh, UFOs? One followed me home from the library in Koreatown.
That's crazy. Oh my God.
Oh, I couldn't believe it. She's like, we had missing time. I'm like,
Okay.
Really? So, I mean, some of these people are having actual contact with extraterrestrials. It's a huge subject, and I think it's just going to get bigger. And I mean, look at the science fiction field right now. The top 10 movies, almost half of them, I think, have aliens in them. So this is a subject that's not going to go away.
Well, it's definitely very alive in the science fiction genre, and I think obviously it's becoming more and more
mainstream for sure.
Widespread in your types of publications as well. So I really appreciate you coming on the show, and congratulations again for winning and being one of the stories that's going to be in the new Writers of the Future book. That's so exciting.
Hey, thanks for having me on the Red Booth. This is like iconic. I can't believe it. What an honor, really.
Thank you. I really appreciate you being here too. And I'll see you at the awards ceremony on April 5th.
Yes, you can watch it live online.
That's right. WritersOfTheFuture.com.